Often when we do arithmetic, we want the output in the form of a fraction. There are several reasons we might want this. We might be in a situation where we're measuring with a measuring device that's marked with fractions. Or we might simply want to have a good image of just how much our answer is. And so that raises the question of, how can we get fraction output on the calculator? The big complicated graphing calculator gives us a very easy way to get fraction output. So I'm going to talk about this in three ways. I'm going to talk about this from the perspective of converting a decimal to a fraction, from the perspective of converting finished output to a fraction, and from the point of view of entering an expression and making the output into a fraction in one step. So converting a given decimal to a fraction. This will usually be the result of some computation that we did earlier, or we're in a situation where we have a mix of decimals and fractions, and we decide that life will be simplest if we make everything into a fraction. To convert a decimal to a fraction, say, to convert the decimal 0.35 to a fraction, well, we enter the fraction into the calculator, and then we press the math key. Now the math key is one of several keys on our calculator that gives us a menu. Now you are welcome to explore this menu, and there are other things in here that we're going to use later on in the course. But right now we want to select the very first option. Now to select something from the menus in the calculator, we have two choices. We can use the up and down arrows to select the option that we want and then hit the enter key, or we can hit the number next to the option that we want. So we see the number 1 next to the frac command. We could hit the number 1 to choose frac. And that's what I'm going to put in my button press sequence here. Okay, so here our calculator says 0.35, convert it to a fraction, and then we hit enter. And we get 0.35 equals 7/20. Okay, that to fraction command is always how we're going to get whatever we're working with turned into a fraction. Okay, so that was when we were just given a decimal. If we've just done some arithmetic, say we've done 3 divided by 4 to the 3rd power, and we look at this and say, that decimal's pretty awful. I want to get my answer as a fraction. Well, if I just hit math followed by 1 to select convert to a fraction. Notice the calculator has ANS. Notice on the calculator screen this ANS. That means the answer to the previous calculation. So in this case, the calculator is inserting this awful decimal at this ANS. If you ever want your previous answer, but your calculator didn't automatically insert it, you can get it to insert the answer by pressing second and then the negative sign key. Notice it has ANS in little blue letters above the negative sign. Second, and then the negative sign key inserts that ANS. So, okay. This is going to take the result of our previous calculation and convert it to a fraction. We hit enter, and we get 27 60/4, which is a lot nicer than that decimal. Sometimes we do a calculation and we know in advance that we're going to want the result as a fraction. So for example, we might say, start out by evaluating 91 divided by 28, and know in advance that we want the answer as a fraction. We can, if we like, do what we did a moment ago. So 91 divided by 28, get the result, convert it to a fraction. Or we can do the whole thing in one go. We can just say 91 divided by 28, convert the result to a fraction. Either way, we get 13/4 as our answer. But if we knew in advance we wanted the fraction, we could save ourselves a step.